All right, everyone. Welcome to the Christmas Spirit Bribe Stream. That's right. We're looking for $10 for Ghosts of the Badlands tonight. Don't know if we'll get it or not. Doesn't really matter. I mean, this is one I'm going to be keeping open for a while, and as soon as I get $10, there you go. I'll go ahead and review it. But yeah, this one's a much cheaper date than Bloodruth was because this time I can get the Kindle edition of it, and I want to get. I would normally get a paperback or hardback edition or something, but here's the thing that concerns me about doing that is that ordering Ghost of the Badland, it doesn't really specify on any of the Amazon pages, which I think is the only place you can get that thing now, unless maybe there's another place. I don't think you can get it on Indiegogo anymore or wherever it was that they posted the crowdfunding campaign. But there was a version that had no color, and then there was a color version. And I want the color version naturally. And I know I'm going to get it if I get the Kindle version. And so I figure, okay. And besides, it's easier to get scans from a Kindle version than from a book. So I'm not going to have to cannibalize a paperback in order to get that. So yeah, $10 for Ghost of the Badlands. What kind of topics are on the subject tonight? Of course, it is Christmas time. Merry Christmas out there to all my subscribers. Hard to believe that I've got do I have like 1,000? I've got over 1,000 subscribers now. I mean, it was just 2 years ago that I only had like 100, and I know a lot of the increase of that has been due to the Ripiverse. So unfortunately, I have to admit, Eric July has been my Santa Claus for like the last like the last 2 years running. Eric July has been bestowing presents on me in the form of subscribers. So Merry Christmas to him and the whole Ripiverse crew, and of course to Miss Crow, who is battling cancer. Definitely want to drop a GoFundMe towards her. I went and I donated. I encourage anyone else to donate. You don't have to buy a shirt. You can just donate directly to her GoFundMe. Shadowpunk says, hey, Ghost of the Badlands, who did that? That was Razorfist. Ghost of the Badlands is the first comic in what he calls the Iron Age of comics, which Ethan Van Sciver just kind of poo-poos on that and says, there's no Iron Age. There's Comicsgate and there's everything else. So I'm curious to see whether Ghost of the Badlands is actually a decent book or not. So you can check it out on Amazon.com. In the video description, I have an affiliate link for Ghost of the Badlands. So if you do want to check it out, please do use that link. So I watched the first maybe 10, 15 minutes of Disney's Skeleton Crew. I wonder who else got the idea that, hey, this is great. An entire Disney show that I don't even need to watch. I don't even need to see whether it's good or not. I just don't care. Shadowpug's asking, was it any good? I don't know. That's why I'm asking people for $10. As soon as I get $10 racked up, I will go and buy it and review it. Or are you talking about Skeleton Crew? I did see Skeleton Crew except for the last 45 minutes of the episode because I just could not care less. Wow. It starts off and you got a bunch of pirates boarding a ship. So it kind of reminds you a little bit of the start of A New Hope. And then they take over the ship. They go to the vault on the ship and there's nothing in the vault. And they all get pissed with their pirate captain and you don't see what happens to him. I assume that guy is Jude Law and maybe he gets cast out or exiled or something. And then you cut to a couple of kids. And it's like, okay, is this going to be some like coming of age skit? And I couldn't care less. At that point, I was just done. And I'm glad because honestly, I don't want another show to watch right now. I've got so many different shows backed up on Amazon Prime, on Disney, on Hulu. I've got plenty to watch. So I'm good as far as that goes. So Skeleton Crew is definitely off of my radar. I have no problem with setting that aside. I mean, I'm not even going to skim it. I at least skimmed the Acolyte. I was curious to see where the Acolyte was going, at least, even though I thought it was crap all the way through, with the exception of episode 5, which had, of course, your epic lightsaber battle. But that was not nearly enough to carry that series. And I'm just surprised that there are still people out there who are debating, what was it about the Acolyte that made it so bad? Was it just racism on the part of people watching? Was it just sexism? Did people just not like a female protagonist or twin female protagonists or the lesbian mother thing? And it's just like, no, it was just a freaking boring story. That's the only thing that Acolyte, the only thing Acolyte had going for it was Jedi, and the Jedi, of course, were boring as hell. I mean, that's part of the problem with the Jedi themselves, is that Jedi have a tendency to be boring characters. If you look at, I mean, God, even when you look at Ahsoka, when you looked at her, I mean, there was nothing to her that made her, really stand out. And of course, Luke, now that he's all, Mr. Jedi and stuff, I mean, he barely has any personality. It's like being a Jedi just drains the personality out of your character. And it did it with Samuel L. Jackson. I mean, I was so excited to see Samuel L. Jackson as a Jedi until I saw him as a Jedi and realized this is not a Jedi who's going to be swearing at the screen. So, yeah, there's nothing to the Acolyte. There's nothing to Skeleton Crew that interests me. So I'm just going to, pretty much give up on Star Wars for the meantime. I did finally catch up on all of the Bad Batch episodes. And the third season was kind of a drag. I don't know what it was. I think it was just, I didn't like the plot of the third season overall. The third season, the Bad Batch, was just basically, for some reason, Omega is valuable to them, probably because she's got like a midichlorian count, and that's it. So, so there's nothing for that. I really liked the first 2 seasons. The first 2 seasons were good, but the third season just kind of dragged on until finally it was over, and I was like, thank goodness, because they had really run out of steam. What I'm going to watch next, I don't know. I got stuff to read first. I've got a volume of Ghost Rider to read. Let's see. Yeah, I got to read through this thing, because if you go on Amazon.com, volume 2, they're doing 40% off on it, and so it's only $26 there. This is volume 1, Hell on Wheels. It's got the very, very first Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider stories. And Low Watermark slides in with Christmas cheer to the tune of $10. Well, thank you, Low Watermark. You have already satisfied my Ghost of the Badlands requirement, and I will be buying that and reviewing it. So we will be taking on a review of Razor Fist's Ghost of the Badlands. We'll be looking at the Iron Age of comics. Is there anything to that, or is that just a flash in the pan? Shadowpunk says, it cracks me up every time she says Omega. I know, I just realized, I think I just realized this season that that's how you pronounce her name. I don't think that's an accent thing. I think that's actually how her name is pronounced. So, and hopefully, Low Watermark, this will be the last time I'm doing a live stream on this particular laptop, because I did get my laptop in. I do have my microphone in. I've got all the equipment in. Shadowpunk asks, is she called Omega because she's the last clone? It's possible. It's interesting to see how many characters on that show turned out to be clones, because I didn't think Emery was a clone at first, and then it turns out she was. So I think she was definitely the last child to be a clone. And I wonder if she ages at the same rate of the other clones. Zaid Comics says, did you get Ghost of the Badlands? I will be getting Ghost of the Badlands. Low Watermark just supplied the funding for that. Merry Christmas, by the way. Merry Christmas to you too. Merry Christmas to all my subscribers out there. And yeah, I remember clones are supposed to grow at an accelerated rate, if I'm not mistaken. So you've got Jango Fett was the original template, of course, and he had his kid Boba Fett, but everybody else was like grown to adulthood really fast, and I think they actually age fast. And I wonder if that fast aging affected the Bad Batch as well as Omega, because it really didn't have a timeline set to when they kind of jumped ahead to a future scene showing them a little bit older. But I don't know. Doesn't really matter. Zayd Comics says, nice. It was a great book. I love Westerns, working on one myself. Yeah, well, I hope so. Let's see. I got the Shadowpunk says, I got the impression aging with the clones is something that they can dial in. Or like dial in as in like set the rate as far as that goes. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess that I always thought that's one of the reasons that Palpatine's clones kept burning out on him. So what was I talking about? Okay, so there was a particular topic that I wanted to bring up, and that was the quality versus quantity argument that was going on between BRIBEstream and crowdfunders. I think Shane Davis was really the one who was talking up the crowdfunding side of things, and the idea is, BRIBEstream is looking out, trying to put out like, God, more than 12 campaigns in a year, and putting those out and then saying that they at least meet a minimum threshold of quality that's going to satisfy readers, and that this is somehow better than the other crowdfunders who are just putting out maybe one comic a year, 2 comics a year, if that, and that's all they can deliver in that amount of time because they're handling all of their different business. Like they're doing the writing, they're doing the artwork, they're doing the distribution, which is a chore in and of itself. And the fact that they can only put out so much in a year, is that hurting them, or is it better to wait? Is it better to wait, especially if what you are doing is seeking out a level of quality that is going to show your books off as superior? And Eric July seems to think that the books that people like Ethan Van Sciver put out, that Shane Davis put out, et cetera, that they are not superior quality to his own books, which I think we all know is complete BS. But at the same time, when Rippaverse is able to scattershot all these books out there, what is the better path? Is it better to rush through and try and put out at least 3 or 4 books a year, or is it better to hold yourself back to 1 or 2 books a year in the hope that you will produce the best quality product? And let's see. Shadowpunk says, well, Eric is not an artist, so I can't blame him for cashing in. Oh, of course. Vaughn Coleman, hello. Hello, Vaughn. Shadowpunk says, in my opinion, as an artist, it's always better to go for quality. And I think you see, the issue is one of, I kind of chalk it up to one word, and that one word is experience. Anybody who buys a comic book is looking to have an experience. If you're reading a book, you're looking for an experience. If you're watching a TV show, you're looking for an experience. Whenever you're consuming any kind of entertainment, generally speaking, you're looking to have an experience that you just can't get any other way. And when you encounter an experience in print or in the movies in such a way that everything comes together in so masterful a way, you remember that. It impacts you. I was just listening to an audiobook, and the audiobook was like, oh God, I think I probably listened to about 20 hours worth of audiobook because it was an unabridged audiobook, but it was in the Star Wars series. It was called Outbound Flight. And it was a prequel to the to Revenge of the Sith or Attack of the... No, I think it was a prequel to Attack of the Clones. And it was one in which Thrawn makes his first appearance. It's a Timothy Zahn novel. And Thrawn is a master tactician. And so he sees like 4 or 5 steps ahead on the battlefield. He knows what people are going to do before they even know they're going to do it. And there was, towards the end of the book, there came this scene where he had orchestrated, through understanding the motives and purposes of various people to the nth degree, that he could predict exactly what they would do. And when it all came together in one massive conflagration, it was just like my mind was exploding. And those are the kinds of experiences you want to get out of a comic book. You want to turn the page and say, like, you know, in Avengers Volume 2 that was done by Bendis and Romita Jr., to see the Red Hulk punch the Hood in the face so hard you have to stand up and just get away from the table for a second, because you've never seen a Hulk punch that hard before, which was something I actually got to say verbatim to John Romita Jr. He was like, that's a compliment. When you realize that, you know, your character, one of these characters who you thought was gone forever, has just been raised from the dead in a way that doesn't suck, you know, in a way that actually makes sense for a change instead of being just completely arbitrary. Those are the moments, you know, when the writer can actually predict what you're going to think about a particular scene and then echo your own thoughts back to you later on. That's the kind of stuff that you want to get out of a comic book. Now, can you get that when you have all of these scattershot productions and you're just basically putting out 12 books a month like Rippaverse is planning to? There's a higher probability that at least with one of those books you will. And that, I think, is the advantage to be gained from the quantity argument. You know, he's always talking about, well, if you don't like this thing, you'll like this thing. If you don't like this thing, you'll like this thing. And he used to talk about that in terms of the universe that he was putting out. And really, the universe effect is not meant to, like, provide such a wide variety that you'll like one thing. The universe effect is meant to draw your readers in so the reader reads everything. You know, if everything is interconnected, then you'll read everything whether you like it or not. In fact, one of the things that I really disagree with Chuck Dixon, and maybe I'm wrong on this because, I mean, I can only speak for myself, really, but he always talks about cross-gen as being a genre shop, which in a way it was. I mean, they would put out a book that was science fiction. They would put out a book that was fantasy, more fantasy type. They would put out a book that was more Lord of the Rings fantasy quest style type. They'd put out a book that had to do more with magic than anything else. They would put out a book that was, had to do with gods and divine type characters. And then they'd also have these other fringe books that were like about pirates, or they were about barbarians or stuff like that. But the only ones I ever cared about when I was reading CrossGen were the ones that were linked together by the universal meta story. And so books like Chuck Dixon's El Cazador, I never read that because it wasn't connected to the meta story. So why should I care? You know, I don't particularly like pirate books. So why in the world would I want to read a pirate comic book unless it was connected in? If he had connected it in, I absolutely would have read it. But because he didn't, and because there was no, I guess he was given no incentive to do so, I just said, well, forget about that. Now, that does make things, I think, more difficult for people to jump in or to just possibly enjoy their own particular segments that they do enjoy. But I was buying every freaking title in the meta story, and so that meant I was spending quite a good deal of money, which, you know, I would think is really what you want to do. You want your readers' money, and you don't want it on the basis of, one reader will like one thing, one reader will like another thing, one reader will like another thing. You want it on the basis of I can at least have the general quality overall appeal to people in such a way that it draws me in to read all of these different things. Karate Stick says the hibbity jibbity experience. I don't know. Is that what you're getting now from me? You might be. It might be sounding like that. But I would say that you can at least have a shot at appealing to more readers and giving them that experience that they want if you put out more product. I mean, how long have we been waiting on Dark Harvest now for in the Cyberfrog realm? How long have we been waiting on Rainbow the Brute? Even Fearsome, I mean, the campaign's over, but it's taking a while to be produced, and I don't think distribution has started on that yet. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know because I didn't order it. That was another one that I was going to put on a BRIBEstream, but I don't know. I've got enough stuff that I can do for now, but I'll probably wait until the next offering for Fearsome. Karate Stick says, Isom is betrayed, but by who that it is. So I think that there is an appeal to the scattershot method of just putting out 12 products in a year and hoping that somebody latches onto one of them. Because here's the thing, people are at least going to try your new products, and maybe some of them will actually appeal to them. But at the same time, you want those things to be high quality products. And that's the problem that putting things out on such a rapid schedule is going to give you, is that if all you're doing is putting out low quality product after low quality product, then your reputation is going to sink with every low quality product that you deliver to your readers. And that's the problem to me that Rippaverse is experiencing right now. You know, at least with Yaira, with Gooding, with Horseman. I mean, these things all in a row have just been like boom, 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 low quality, low quality, low quality. And I can't see how you expect a company to succeed if you're going to develop for yourself a reputation of some laughably bad comics. And I don't know what kind of minimum. I mean, really, the only thing that Eric July has to appeal to is the minimum standard that his viewers and his readers are willing to accept. He's got a core audience, and that core audience is probably around 10,000 people or so. But if you're going to, and I think probably one way you can bring other readers in is to try and publish more product. I had some pizza earlier, and that's just coming right back up on me. But I would rather see more high quality product, even if that means having to limit to, say, I don't know, 4 titles in a year. Because even if you're able to put out 4 titles in a year, you are doing better than a lot of the crowdfunders out there. I mean, if Shane Davis is only doing 1 book a year, if Ethan Van Sciver's doing, 1 or 2 books a year, which it seems like that's what it's racking up to be, you don't have anything to worry about as far as being outrun by the competition. All you have to worry about is, can you do better than the competition? Because, if you're just draining money out of people's pockets to give them just a bare minimum experience, whereas they can, blow your socks off once a year, hopefully twice a year, then obviously the people are going to decide to spend their money on the experiences that blow their socks off. I mean, eventually, like, what was it, American Horror Story? American Horror Story blew my socks off with seasons 1 and 3. And so I kept giving it a try and giving it a try. I don't even give it a try anymore because they disappointed me one too many times. I loved season 1. Couldn't understand season 2 when I first watched it because I was like, wait a minute, is this a continuance of the same? I'm seeing the same actors, but they seem to be playing different roles. And so that kind of confused me. And I didn't like the story that was going on in front of me. And so I was like, okay, season 2, I don't know what the hell this is, and I don't care about it. But season 3 brought me back, and I thought it was an absolute home run right out of the gate. And then season 4 came out, and I was like, what is this crap? And then season 5 came out, and I'm like, what is this crap? And then season 6 and 7 and 8, and finally I was just done. I don't even give it a chance anymore, because as many things as they threw out there, and they threw out on a regular basis, one season a year, but they could never measure up to the quality of the original books, or the original seasons, or two of the original seasons at least. Let's see. Shadowpunk says, I think Eric's business model is based on his internet personality. Quality of the book is just a small factor. And Karate Stick says, is it safe to say Ripa doesn't know what he's doing? Well, see, it's hard to say, because he may have found a way to keep his company sustainably alive into the future based on a limited number of, like Shadowpunk was saying, viewers. And Real Nerdy Review says, your stream looks better than the one I did earlier. Actually, I'm still on my old laptop, so it's not an equipment improvement. So just letting you know that. Shadowpunk says, I think Eric knows what he's doing, but writing isn't one of those. Well, it would be interesting to see him actually finish a story, because he hasn't done that yet. There has been no conclusion to any of the stories that he's written so far. I saw him, number 1 and number 2 are still waiting on their third issue. Salvage is still waiting on the conclusion of that story. You've got, Saoirse, who's still waiting on the conclusion to her story. I don't know what's going to happen from here on out. Honestly, I keep wondering if maybe the fact that, the ministry is going to capitalize somehow off of ISOM number 3, that he's holding off on doing that. But to me, if that's the case, then what he ought to do is he ought to serialize ISOM number 3 in the Ripazine. And that way he's not publishing a book called ISOM, but he's still able to get his story out. So, and then he could put together a whole, Avery Silman collection, and then avoid using the name that way. So there's ways of getting around probably all these things, but of course, without any of us being able to see the settlement agreement, then there's nothing that we can really say that's going to be definitive towards what he can do and what he can't. So as far as the whole quality versus quantity debate, it all depends on whether or not you actually, it also depends, like Eric July said, on whether you're delivering the quality. And I don't know. I have seen some instances in which the quality was delivered. I have seen some instances in which I'm like, really should have taken some more time to think about these things and get some more input from either other writers or trusted readers before you released this to the public. Because I've seen some of the stuff that I'll be reviewing later on when I get more issues of the series in, and just thinking, this is not anything I really wanted to see or have any interest in seeing. And if it wasn't for the fact that the story doesn't end here, I wouldn't be buying anymore. Dioberg says, Merry Christmas, Mike and chat. Everybody's wishing him a Merry Christmas. Shadowpunk says, regular CG creators make maximum 10K in their books, and they're often way better than Rippa books. It's all about YouTube and personality. Yeah, and it is annoying. I understand that, considering how the money often gets translated into a quality that's really not there. People are talking about he made $3.7 million on that campaign. And yes, and that was before anybody read any of the book. And after people had read the book, half of them decided, I ain't getting another issue of this. And that is the real, that's the poison pill he had to swallow there, is realizing that what he gave people was not good enough to keep half of them. And even though, I've said this a million times, but even though in comic book stores, things like that happen all the time as well, it's not really true on the crowdfunding scene, because all you have to do is just make what people say they're interested in, and then you'll have 100% of your order every time. But in the case of the stores, it's the retailers who are trying to guesstimate what their reader demand, their customer demand is going to be for a second issue, and they almost always just cut in half the second issue orders. But that's not based on the quality of the book. Even the best books, they go and they just say, okay, slash it in half. Shadowpunk, wow, that many people left Eric after the first book. Yeah, he actually, his readership actually went down 50%. He started off with about 43,000 readers, and it dropped down to about 26,000 readers. And that's why, if you look on his website and you look at the campaign pages, he no longer lists the number of individual purchasers, because that would give you an actual number of who's buying this stuff. You know, how many people are buying multiple copies? How many people are buying the book plus merch? You know, he doesn't give that number out anymore. And so we can't really estimate how well it is he's doing. All we can do is look at the number of books that have been purchased and wonder if that's anywhere near. I mean, because if you release 4 different covers for every one of your books, and he's also got the black and white one for Bloodruth, then you could have a person who's just basically buying up everything. You could have a person buying 5 copies. And he says, look, I got 5 books sold, but it was only one person. And if that's the case, well, yeah, you got the money, but you don't have the audience. Let's see. Karate Stick says, Eric totally blew it. The first book was a dud, and he had all that hype behind it. And, you know, I still had hope when I got done reading ISOM #1. I mean, I knew that it was not a good comic in the sense of it had too many mistakes, but it was good enough that I thought people would stick around to see how much he improved from issue 1 to issue 2. And, of course, that didn't happen. that really didn't happen. I would say that ISOM #2 was over half. It was only, you know, half as good as ISOM #1, if that. And the readership dropped again to show it. Well, I mean, it dropped in the sense that if you went from ISOM #2 to Alpha Core, there was a drop in readership again. And then and then I think it was around there that the actual reader numbers stopped being published, or the purchaser numbers stopped being published, because I don't think Yaira had that there. And of course, Yaira wound up to be such a disappointment that he had to drop the Yaira statue early in order to shore up the numbers so that it would actually reach 1.5 million, which is what it was expected to reach. So. So yeah, so as far as the quality versus quantity argument goes, I think what can be said is quantity is a good way to try and draw in new readers, but you have to also be able to keep the readers that you get, and you don't do that unless you produce books that are of quality. And I'm not talking baseline minimum quality. I'm talking about, because anybody can get that anywhere. You can get baseline minimum quality off the freaking rack for like $5 a book, $5-6 a book. I mean, honestly, I almost feel like it would be better for people to go and just go over to Barnes and Nobles or something and read something classic that's out of the trade paperback aisle and see if something there is actually worth your time. Because otherwise, you're going to be spending through the nose on a lot of these crowdfunded or independently published books. You can get a lot of bang for your buck just off of that rack. But you know, there's also a lot of disappointments out there. And I would almost say that, do you really want to be that kind of, you know, Barnes and Noble trade paperback rack, which is really all you're going to be if all you're doing is just pumping out product as fast as you can? Because how much of that stuff, you know, if you were to go to Barnes and Nobles and you were to see all of the Marvel and DC stuff that they have there, how much of that could you honestly point to that and say, that was a good book? You know, I could recommend that. You know, this is a book that stands out. And then how much of it is just garbage? There's a lot of garbage out there. So as far as the quality versus quantity thing, I mean, I would rather see Rippaverse take its time of course, the problem is that I don't know how much time Rippaverse has. Rippaverse is a business. It's a large business. It's got a lot of employees. It's got a warehouse. It's got all of these, this structure in place that it needs to be able to produce on a regular basis, and it needs to be able to keep that audience captured on a regular basis. As they produce more and more stuff, maybe a few people come in, but it's going to depend on the reputation of the product. If someone says, yeah, this is really low quality stuff, that's going to turn off new readers. And there was a time when I kind of wished that Rippaverse would up its game and start producing the kind of quality that would get me to recommend it. But so far that has just not happened. And what's really bad, I wish I had not been banned from Eric July's live streams, because I got a real banger to have a super chat to drop on there. I've just got to find one of the live streams that he guests on or something, whether it's Nerdrotic or Friday Night Tights or something like Yellow Flash, something like that. I'll drop about $5 and just basically put him on blast, because he let a big mistake go through in Horseman #1. You'll see it if you watch my video. In fact, I was gonna tease Ethan Van Sciver if he was gonna be on tonight. I don't know if any of them are planning on. Let's see if he's got anything scheduled so far, or if this is just gonna be a Christmas Eve. A lonely Christmas Eve for all the fans. Yeah, I think everybody's just basically going to be taking it in. That's why I took the advantage of live streaming tonight. I figure everybody's probably pigging out for dinner or something. My festivities don't start till tomorrow, so I figure, okay. Karate Stick says, how does he up his game when he can't take criticism? Yeah, and I feel like, oh gosh. It was a two-way street, like early in the beginning, because he really did wind up getting a lot of unfair criticism from people, in addition to all the fair criticism that he received. I mean, I know people love to talk about Dick Masterson's opus as far as all of the critiques that he delivered, but honestly, I went through that whole document and found like 3 things that were actually of merit, and the rest of it was just, it could be explained. It was not stuff that didn't make sense within the context of the book, or didn't make sense from a writing standpoint. And so he wound up facing a lot of adversity that just caused him to shut down. And then he tried to, turn it into a monetize your haters thing, where, even because he was getting so much unfair criticism, he was able to expose some of that and use that and capitalize off of some of that. But then when he started getting people like me on his show, and he's like, he can't really argue with that, with what I'm bringing up, even though there are times that he argued to the point of gaslighting, like, no, that part that was meant to be written that way. That's not a mistake. Like, okay, is that the game we're playing now? Shadowpunk asks, did that girl Caro really write ISOM? I don't know. I don't think so. I think Eric July probably wrote those. I would not, if I were Caro Brown, I would not want to take credit for those books. I am insanely curious. I will say this. I am insanely curious to see what they do with the new Trinity Collected Edition of ISOM #1, Alpha Core #1, and Yaira #1. Now they're saying that the only thing that they changed on Alpha Core #1 and Yaira #1 was the lettering. And I don't understand why they bothered with that, because there was nothing wrong with the lettering. As far as ISOM goes, they're saying they changed not only the lettering, but they also changed the layouts of some pages, the artwork, redid the colors and stuff like that. I have a feeling they went and they changed a whole lot of stuff that needed no changing and improved nothing. So we'll see, but I'm really looking forward to that. Karate Stick, do they add the missing page? The one from Yaira? The missing page from Yaira, or do you think it was from ISOM? Because I mean, there were some of those books. There's like any one of them could have had a missing page, especially Yaira, where you at least want to see where it is that she checked the woman out of the rest home and took her to her actual house. That was just like, and then suddenly we're somewhere else. And then on the ISOM side, of course, you got the two guys, about to collide, and now they're just skidding backwards. I can't wait to see how they handle that. Or even if they handle that, I don't know if, I mean, the way that Eric July argued about that, it's like, oh, you see this kind of stuff in manga all the time. I'm like, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think maybe in Bleach, where all they do is they like stand and talk shit at each other for like, I don't know how long, but I swear I never watched that cartoon. And the few times that I actually tried to get interested in Bleach, they would have like entire episodes where all they would do is like hover in the air and talk smack at each other. And I'm like, what is this crap? This is the worst freaking thing ever. I think some of the Dragon Ball stuff was like that too. And I'm just like, why does anybody watch this? Yeah, I'm kind of missing my anime now. I went and I watched the final episode of Attack on Titan, which had English dubbing, and I highly recommend, if anybody has already watched the Japanese with subtitle versions of the final chapters of Attack on Titan, watch the English dubbing versions as well, because they actually did a better job than the Japanese version of properly transferring the comic material to the screen. There were things in the final chapters on the subtitle version where I was like, yeah, they didn't handle that right. They were doing like, they were trying to rush things. They put scenes that were in the credits that were like really small in the credits or beside the credits that should have been full scenes, and they fixed that in the English side, and it's good that they did. So Attack on Titan, I gotta tell you, that's probably, I mean, I still have a soft spot in my heart for Death Note. That's probably the one that I got that I was really, really impressed with the most before I started watching Attack on Titan. And Attack on Titan is just insanely good. One of the best animes there's ever been. So anyway, if you have not watched the English version of the last episodes, do watch those versions, because they are better than the original Japanese with subtitles. I think that's about, oh, what did I think of the new Superman trailer? Asks Shadowpunk. I actually don't have an opinion on it because I refuse to watch it. Anytime I know I'm going to be watching a movie, I don't even look at the trailer because I don't want anything spoiled for me. That's the thing. It's like there are a lot of movies out there where they just tell you too much. There's a point at which, I'll tell you what. Let's see, what was one of the worst ones? Now, of course, there was the the Star Trek Beyond, which kind of their trailer kind of released a secret that was from towards the end of the movie. I'm thinking, M. Night Shyamalan's Old. If you've ever seen, I mean, just the title itself, they really shouldn't have given that movie that name. But if you ever seen the trailer for M. Night Shyamalan's Old, they give away the whole freaking premise of the movie. And I spent probably the first third of the movie wishing it would catch up to what I already knew. And so I just don't watch trailers anymore. Only a mentat would use that approach. I feel like I should know that term. I just don't. Where does that come from? Mentat. Is that from the Dune series or something? Only. Okay, yeah. I forget what the mentats even were. were they the ones who were able to like navigate on account of the spice, or were those the navigators? I don't remember. I did not enjoy this last interpretation of Dune. I thought the first movie was just hellishly boring, and they turn their brains into computers because they don't have actual computers. Oh, that's right, because of the Butlerian Jihad or something like that, where they got rid of all the artificial intelligence. Um, Dune just never really struck me as a very interesting series. I think I've watched 3 versions of it now, trying to, like it. I did read the first book, and I think the only portion I liked in the first book was the first part that dealt largely with politics. But once they got like trapped or once their House Atreides had fallen, and Paul was on the run with Jessica, I think. I didn't care for it. Yeah, the style of the new movies is bland. Yeah, it's just there's even just the fact that you find out that the name of the world is Arrakis, and that for some reason people also call it Dune, and it's like, because why? Because you didn't want to title your book Arrakis? That seems like the only reason. You wanted to call it Dune just for no freaking reason other than it sounded better than Arrakis. Well, why didn't you just call the planet Dune? I mean, I don't know. But I mean, Timothy Chalamet in Dune Chapter 2, he was tremendous. He was tremendous. I mean, you could really see him carry off the role of kind of a jaded, I don't want to be here, but I have to be here Messiah type. And so I enjoyed it, but yeah, I don't find anything impressive about it. And I wonder if it's just that as an older reader who read a lot of other stuff first, or somebody who was too young to have encountered Dune when it first came out, that it's just a matter of I can't appreciate what it was he was bringing to the table. And I think there was also something about the fact that he included a lot of he was trying to include a lot of Islamic theology in there as well. And of course, I had no common ground whatsoever with that. I hadn't read the Quran by then, so I didn't know anything about Islam or what have you. But there's a lot of that comes together in the movie that's kind of really evident when you look at Dune Chapter 2. But again, that just kind of left no taste in my mouth for the most part. Let's see. Yeah, as far as Dune goes, I saw the what was it? The Kyle MacLachlan. Yeah, he was the one who played Paul Atreides first in the movies, in the David Lynch film. I probably would say that may still be the best one. I almost want to watch it again just to see what it looks like. And then there was the one that was done for Sci-Fi, and it may have been a BBC thing. I'm not sure. That one was okay. William Hurt, I think, played Leto Atreides in that one. But this latest one, I mean, it was a visual spectacle, but other than that, it didn't do anything for me. And I felt like they got certain parts of it just flat wrong. Where when they had Jessica instead of Paul reciting the Bene Gesserit thing about fear is the mind killer, etc. Like this is just wrong. Because you can see she's terrified out of her mind. Let's see. In the original, I like how each group of people had their own cultures. They even spoke differently. Was that in the original David Lynch one? Yeah, I don't remember that far back. Yeah, it says yes. I don't remember that far back. Yeah, as far as the new Superman stuff goes, I'll watch it whenever it comes out. I mean, I'm interested in that. I'm interested in the new Captain America movie that'll be coming out, because I know that Moon Knight's supposed to make another appearance in there, and that's that'll interest me. I noticed that Marvel's got another series of what if stuff going. I haven't watched any of that. I'm so behind on the Marvel stuff. I just can't even. I mean, they come out with all these shows that to me are just not really that interesting. I mean, the whole concept that they would make a show for Agatha Harkness. Why? You know what? That they made a show for Echo. Why? Yeah, and I've still got to go through all of the Defender Saga stuff. Yeah, I haven't. I've only seen one season of Daredevil and one season of Jessica Jones. I've got tons of stuff to watch, but oh Lord, lately there are witches on all these shows. Yeah, I guess so. Um, what else has been going on lately? I mean, other than that, I mean, yeah, probably some of y'all saw the screed I wrote about the 37 pardons that Joe Biden gave to all those death row inmates. That piece of crap. Oh God. I mean, when you read through some of the things that those people had been on death row for, it's just sickening to think that Biden looked at that and said, that's not concern enough to really have them executed for. Like, dude, some of these people killed other prisoners while they were serving life sentences. Okay, they are exactly the kind of people who need to be executed. All right, if you are in prison serving a life sentence and you kill somebody when you're in prison, then I mean, unless it was a self-defense thing, then yeah, you need to be just taken off the planet, especially if it was a guard and not a fellow inmate. But even then, it's like, there are inmates who have loved ones, okay? And even if they're serving time in a maximum security prison, who was serving time in a maximum security prison? I had to laugh about this. Rod Blagojevich. Rod Blagojevich was serving time alongside murderers, rapists, child molesters, all of these terrible, terrible criminals. And he was accused of trying to sell a Senate seat. It's like, I don't like the thought of somebody like Rod Blagojevich, who is basically did a white collar crime that he got a long number of years for, get sentenced to a maximum security cell, and if somebody were to kill him, then that's something that wouldn't even the justice system wouldn't even care about that enough to call for the death penalty on that account. If you are in freaking prison already and you demonstrate that you are a lethal threat even in there, I have no problem with you being taken off the board. And I don't understand how Joe Biden could have any sense of justice to his name, but we know he doesn't. I mean, he pardoned his son for not just the stuff that we knew about, but anything we don't know about that happened within a 10-year span. Oh my God. Somebody was showing me pictures from all of the stuff that he was had on the laptop. I was like, yeah, there's probably a lot of stuff on there. And then, of course, now people are throwing back, Matt Gaetz at the Republicans, saying it's like, oh, look at all the stuff that we believe he did. It's like, okay, well, fine, go try him then. Don't give him the benefit of a pardon. Nobody's asking you to. Go put him on trial. If you want to go ahead and do that, do that. We don't care. We actually have a sense of justice. God almighty. Oh. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it as far as things go. I know I am getting my second copy of DINO King is on the way, so I will finally be able to do my review of DINO King when that comes in. Because the first time, I just thought it was going to be like a floppy or something. That thing's thick. Let me show you. Look at this. That is a thick freaking book. I was not expecting that when I got it in the mail, and then when I opened the first couple of pages and I saw oh, okay, this looks like it might actually be interesting here. I knew I had to get a second copy, and at that point it was like, oh great, now I got to get a second copy all the way from Australia. I don't know if DINO King's any good. I haven't read it yet. I'm waiting for the second copy to come in. Yeah, once I get the second copy, then I'll be able to do that. Yeah, Dino King is thick. Xbox Gamer says. Shadowpunk says, seriously, yeah, I don't. I've got plenty to read. I've got plenty to read, and I've got plenty to watch. So I don't have any problems finding stuff to do. Um, and like I just did the what will probably be the last 3 videos in the Creeping Rainbow and Comics series. If you haven't seen those, I mean, I've got a playlist set up on YouTube, and there's also a playlist on BitChute. It's probably easier to look at the BitChute playlist since that's where all of the real videos are. But the Creeping Rainbow in Comics is a playlist. It's 10 videos long at this point, of kind of various experiences I've had with LGBTQ themes in comics, whether it be characters or how various things were interpreted in a LGBTQ friendly way. And I just did 3 of those videos in a row. One of them is on a 4-issue limited series that focuses on a transgender protagonist. And then there's another one that focuses on the impact of a kid coming out of the closet on his circle of friends, one of the circle of friends, including the protagonist of the series, who is a superhero, and showing the various reactions, both good and bad, of all of the kids in a way that I thought was very sensitively portrayed. And then the last video, which may be the last one overall, because I don't think there's that much in the past that I can think of where I would have anything to say about certain characters. The last one is about like the funniest portrayal of homophobia I've ever seen. It's just hilarious. So if you haven't gone over to BitChute or Rumble or watch those, then I highly recommend doing that. I enjoy the work that I did on that series because I tackled things like the amount of LGBT representation in the new DC Justice League. I talk about how Matt Wagner's Grendel took up the homosexual defense at the time, and just said some royally stupid things that are completely out of character for him. I was there's a character that you could tell had gender issues at a time when it wasn't something you explicitly talked about. And then of course there was the Alan Scott Green Lantern thing. I forget what some of the items I did was, but I know one of the ones that I enjoyed working on immensely was talking about the Doomsday Clock by Jeff Johns, which was the scene that undid which was this maxi series, 12-issue series, in which the intervention of Dr. Manhattan into the DC universe was undone, allowing the Justice Society and the Legion of Superheroes to come back, and for the New 52 to be reversed. And how that was likened by Jeff Johns to a coming out of the closet and letting your freak flag fly. So that one I'm also particularly proud of, and I think I've done a couple other. Oh, one of them had to do with calling the latest Superboy the Twink of Steel. Oh dear God! And I had no idea, by the way. Let's see, white background in the Bleach manga. Don't know what that means. I had no idea that who was it? Mags Visaggio had the intention of turning Superboy into a trans character. Thank God that didn't happen. Oh my. Oh. Turning Connor Kent into Connie Kent or something like that. It's like, can you please keep your damage to your own characters? So, yeah, that's I don't know. And there's plenty, and the thing is like there's plenty of gay characters out there. There's plenty of other characters who you could, just create and then make those characters trans. I mean, there's what was it? Paul Jenkins did a whole superhero series about a trans character. I don't remember what that one was, but But anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. It is close to 9 o'clock now on Christmas Eve. I hope all of you have a Merry Christmas tomorrow. I hope all of you get nice presents. I will be getting myself a nice present. It will be Ghost of the Badlands, thanks to the donation from Low Watermark, who donated the $10 necessary for me to pick up a Kindle copy. And at some point in the near future, I will get to read that and be able to tell you all if I think the Iron Age has any legs to it. Let's see if Ethan Van Sciver is right and Comicsgate is the only game in town, or if there are competitors out there. So thank you very much for sticking around, and enjoy the holidays, and I will talk to y'all later.